Hello everyone. In this session, I'm going to complete the remaining part of chapter number 2. So in part 1, I completed up to this topic, that is determinants of demand. So in part 1, we discussed all these 5 determinants of demand. Basically, these factors shift the demand curve either rightward or leftward. So this was the example where I just finished that part 1. So in this example, you have to understand the concept of complementary products and substitute products. Answers are already given here. So if you look at the this table, prices are given as $2, $3, $4. Demand 10,000, 9,600, 9,200, and then another demand. So basically, this price and this demand, this is one demand curve. Okay, this is one demand curve. So all these numbers 10,000, 9,600, 9,200, they are on the same demand curve. Okay, and this is the demand for pretzels. Now, the question is, what might have happened to the price of a complementary product like beer? So now we have two products, one beer and the other one is pretzel. So I know that these are two complementary products that is joined together to cause the demand for pretzel to change. Demand, not quantity demand. So see, actually demand changes here. If you see here, demand changes. Demand for what? For pretzels. And I can see that at price 2, demand increases from 10,000 to 11,000. Not because of the price, but because of the price of the complementary good, that is beer. And we want to know whether the price of beer has gone up or has gone down. And you can see even at price 3, demand goes from 9,600 to 10,600, from 9,200 to 10,200. So what I can see, the demand increases by 1,000 unit at each price level. So I know that the demand for pretzel has gone up. And this is only possible if the price of the complementary product must fall. So the price of beer fell. I know, because when price of beer falls, then demand for pretzel must increase. I told you for complementary products, the relationship is indirect. So whenever price of beer decreases, so it's become more cheaper, and therefore people would buy more beer, and therefore in order to use more beer, they need to buy more pretzels, and therefore demand for pretzel will go up. Exactly, part B says exactly opposite. That is, what might have happened to the price of a substitute product, for example, nuts. So you can substitute nuts with pretzels. I don't know, but this is in the question. So I know that price of nuts rose. I know, because when price of nuts increases, so now nuts become more expensive, and therefore people will go to buy more pretzels, and that is why demand for pretzel will increase. So when price of nuts increases, I know demand for pretzel must increase, because people would then demand more pretzel instead of nuts, because these two are substitutable products. Okay. Now I'm going to show you the increase in demand because of any of those 5 factors that we discussed in part 1 by shifting the demand curve. So increase in demand is represented as a shift, a rightward shift in the demand curve, and we see what would happen to equilibrium price and equilibrium quantity. So it says adjustment to an increase in demand. So demand is increasing, remember. And I said demand, not quantity demand. So we are not moving on the same demand curve. We are now shifting the demand curve to the right. Why? Because it says increase. If it is a decrease in demand, then we shift the demand curve to the left. So so an increase in demand will shift the demand curve to the right. A decrease in demand will shift the demand curve to the left. So this is the case for an increase in demand. So you can see I shifted demand curve from D1 to D2. It's a rightward shift. That is why this is a rightward arrow. Okay. So I shifted demand curve to the right. Initially, what happened, if you notice that this is the new demand here, and supply is still the same at $20. So I'm assuming that right now when demand increases, price will not increase right away. So price is still at $20. At $20, supply is this. Why? Because there's no change in supply curve. So supply is still 40, but demand, consumers are now demanding more because of those 5 factors, any of those 5 factors. So demand is now 20. What does this mean? It means shortage. Demand QD 20 is more than 14. And you know what would happen when there's a shortage? Price will increase. So price will increase. When price increases, see what would happen to both demand and supply separately, individually. So when price increases, quantity demanded according to law of demand decreases. So see, you are here, and now quantity demand decreases in this direction. See, this is decreasing. Why now I'm saying quantity demand? Why? Excuse me. Why I am saying quantity demanded? Why not I'm saying demand? Because now this decrease in demand is because of the increase in price. That's why I'm saying quantity demanded, and that is why I'm not shifting the demand curve, new demand curve. I'm moving along the same new demand curve. So I'm moving from here towards this new point. And when price increases, I know according to law of supply, the quantity supplied will increase. So I will move on the same supply curve. So this is the movement, this is the movement, and finally we reach here. That is equilibrium. So now you can just summarize. You don't have to just go through this whole adjustment process. What you should remember is as follows. When demand curve shifts to the right, equilibrium price will increase. You can see equilibrium price will increase from 20 to $22. So equilibrium, I'm writing here, equilibrium price will increase. And equilibrium quantity will also increase from 14 to not 20 to 18. You can see this is the new equilibrium point, new point of intersection. This was the old point of intersection. So you have to compare these points. Let me mark this point. This is point A, this is point B. Just compare these 2 points. So you can see price has gone up. You can see equilibrium quantity has gone up. So I'm writing here, equilibrium quantity will also increase. So for demand curve, it is much easier to remember. When demand curve shifts to the right or demand increases, both equilibrium price and equilibrium quantity will increase. Both will increase. If demand increases, both will increase. If demand decreases, both EP and EQ will decrease. So same direction. It's much easier to remember. I don't know whether if this another diagram. Yeah, exactly the same way. When aggregate demand, or not aggregate demand, I'm sorry. When demand curve shifts leftward in this direction, in this direction, this is the initial equilibrium, this is the new equilibrium. And you can see equilibrium price decreases, equilibrium quantity also decreases from 14 to 10, not 8. This is the equilibrium, new equilibrium, right? So when demand decreases, then I'm writing here EP, equilibrium price will decrease, equilibrium quantity will also decrease, okay? So these are the only 2 cases, shifting of the demand curve rightward or leftward. And then in the last slide, I'll summarize everything, so don't worry. Now come to the determinants of supply as determinants of demand. So these are the 6 factors. I'm not going to discuss them again in detail because I've already discussed 4 determinants of demand. So they are very similar. Prices of productive resources. By productive, so see, every time we use different terms. Prices of productive resources. By productive resources, I mean factors of production. I mean inputs, raw materials. So if prices of productive resources uh, increases, firm will supply less. Why? Because cost of production is increasing. So they are not going to supply more. Why? Because their profit margins are decreasing. Government, so supply less means whole supply curve shifts to the left. Supply more means whole supply curve shifts to the right. Government taxes and subsidies to the producers, not to the consumers, right? So if government is imposing taxes on producers, supply curve shifts to the left because their cost of production has gone up. They now have to pay taxes. If government pays subsidies to the producers, then they are receiving money from the government. So their cost of production has gone down. They're going to supply more. Supply curve shifts to the right. Technology. If technology increases the productivity of factors of production, they are now producing more at the same cost, and therefore they are going to supply more. Prices of substitutes in production. Remember, I'm not talking about substitutes products in consumption. So, for example, uh, uh, you know, this is substitutes in production process. So, for example, SUV and sedan, they have the similar production process. So if the price of sedan, or sorry, of SUV is increasing, then the automobile company will produce more SUVs and quickly transfer resources from the sedan production process to SUV production process, right? So if the price of a substitute increases, then they are going to produce that same product in order to earn higher profits, which is written here. So price of substitution production, increase in price of one product will cause a drop in the supply of substitutes products. Are you getting my point? So if the uh, suppose increase in the price of one product, let's say this is SUVs. So if the price of SUVs is increasing, then the supply of sedan, which is a substitute product, will definitely decrease because they are now taking factors of production or resources from sedan production process, and therefore the supply of sedan uh, auto vehicles will decrease. And similarly, expect a future expectation of suppliers, again same thing as for consumer is, but the case is opposite. Don't get confused. You will see these problems in your exams, in your quizzes. So for example, if I am expecting, I mean consumers. So if I am expecting prices to be higher in next month, I'm going to demand more. But from the producer's point of view, if producers or suppliers are expecting prices to be higher next month, they are going to supply less today. Why? Because they hold their supply. Why? Because they are going to sell their products next month so that they can charge higher prices. So it matters who are expecting. So if consumers are expecting prices to be higher, they are going to demand more. If suppliers are expecting that prices to be higher in the next month, they are going to supply less. They are going to supply more after 1 month when price is actually higher. Number of sellers or number of firms, of course, a decrease in the number of suppliers will reduce market supply. A high number of firms, so if more firms are entering in the business, supply curve will shift to the right. Let me put everything in this graph. effects of an increase in supply. That is when supply curve shifts rightward. Okay, so I'm shifting supply curve in this direction. What would happen? Just take the two equilibrium point. This is the initial equilibrium point. This is the new equilibrium point. See, price is decreasing, equilibrium quantity is increasing. So whenever there's an increase in supply, equilibrium price will decrease. Remember this, equilibrium quantity will increase always. Now let me shift the supply curve to the left. They shift in the left. So suppliers are supplying less, not because of the price, but because of any other factors. Maybe because of future expectations, maybe because of the taxes, imposition of taxes, maybe because of the decrease in the number of sellers. Whatever be the reason, when supply decreases at each price level, so supply curve shifts to the left, you can see the equilibrium price will increase, the equilibrium price will increase, the equilibrium quantity will decrease, because you are moving from this equilibrium to this equilibrium. So equilibrium price, let me write here, EP increases, EQ decreases. Let me write here, EP increases, EQ decreases when supply curve shifts to the left. Okay. Now let me summarize everything in this table. So remember this table. If you forget, just go and see this table. So I just have written everything in this table. So now there are four possibilities. Demand increase, see, increase in demand or decrease in demand, increase in supply or decrease in supply. Okay. Forget about this column for the time being. I told you, whenever demand increases, that is, demand curve shifts to the right, price increases, equilibrium quantity increases. Okay. Whenever demand curve shifts to the left, that is decrease, both equilibrium price, equilibrium quantity decreases. Although it's not written equilibrium, but this is basically equilibrium. And when supply curve shifts to the right, increase in supply, remember, price will decrease, quantity will increase, equilibrium price, equilibrium quantity. And whenever supply curve shifts to the left, that is decrease in supply, price, equilibrium price increases, equilibrium quantity decreases. So this is basically equilibrium price and equilibrium quantity. Why this is happening? Because of this second column. So now let me erase this first and then show you. So whenever demand increases, whenever demand increases, it means shortage, because there's no change in supply and now you are demanding more. So there's a shortage, and you know, whenever there's a shortage, price will increase. Okay. Similarly, whenever demand decreases, there's a surplus, price will decrease. I told you, whenever you have shortage, price will increase. Whenever we have surplus, price will decrease. But don't get confused. You just have to remember this end result. And with E, and I'm writing E here so that you don't confuse here. Why not summarize everything? Why not summarize everything? So this is the summary of this chapter that you should remember: concept of demand, the concept of supply, the term market, the concept of equilibrium price and quantity, the determinants of demand and supply, the effects of a change in demand or a change in supply, and why demand and supply determine price and quantity, not the reverse. I've already discussed, because we combine these curves together to determine price level. And now let me finally summarize this important thing using sharing my blank whiteboard. So here it is. Let me erase this first and see this. So this is what you have to remember. Whenever demand, and I'm writing in short because it's very difficult to write on this screen. Whenever demand curve shifts rightward. It means whenever demand increases. Okay, so whenever demand increases, see what would happen. Equilibrium price will always increase, equilibrium quantity will always increase. Whenever demand curve shifts leftward, what is the meaning of leftward? Decrease. Equilibrium price decreases, equilibrium quantity decreases. When supply curve shifts rightward, by rightward I mean increase. Okay, I don't want to write in this fashion. Hold on a second. Let me erase this. I don't want to write in this fashion. So this is basically increase in supply. That is rightward shift. What would happen? Equilibrium price will decrease because supply is increasing. So you have surplus. Equilibrium price will increase. Equilibrium quantity will increase. When supply curve shifts leftward, what will happen? This is decrease in supply. Okay, equilibrium price will increase. Why? There's a shortage. Producers are supplying less, maybe because of taxes, maybe because of expectations. And equilibrium quantity, since there's a shortage, right? So they are supplying less. So definitely equilibrium quantity will decrease. So these are the four relationships that you must understand and remember. We will complicate these relationships in chapter number 3 when we shift both curves at the same time. So we shift simultaneously demand curve to the right and supply curve also to the right, and see what would happen to equilibrium quantity or equilibrium price and equilibrium quantity. So that's all as far as chapter number 2 is concerned. So let me stop here and make sure you watch both parts of chapter number 2. Thank you so much. Take care. Bye-bye.